I am going to be very, very interested in knowing exactly what the costs are per student, what the administrative costs are per student, because I've seen over and over again regional school districts going absolutely hog wild with administrative costs, increasing the cost per student for the education by enormous amounts, but not providing any measurable increase in the quality of education. And so I'm going to be watching those very carefully. I'm going to be very interested in making public what happens to see whether there is an issue that we need to deal with and to make some changes. But for right now, I'm looking at it very skeptically with that specifically in mind.
Well, first of all, I was for regionalization. I still support it. I agree with Frank, we do have to make sure that the SBA comes forward with the funds. However, people need to understand that we have already voted it in. It becomes a full-time working district in FY12. That means they do their own budgeting, they do their own finances, they do their own insurance. So yes, when it comes to town meeting, prior to that, during the budget process, they'll work with the town side. However, they are an independent district.
Okay. On to our next question. Do you feel the current direction of the town is fiscally sound, or are you running on a platform change? If it's a platform change, can you give concrete examples of how the town can level fund services in face of declining state aid? So,
when I was considering this question, I was going to say, except for regionalization, we're on sound footing. I have great pleasure talking to friends from other communities about Ayer's financial status. We are in wonderful shape. No matter how bad we may seem to be to ourselves, we're in wonderful shape compared to almost everyone else. And people like Mary Spinner on the Finance Committee, for as long as he served on that, have been principally responsible for that, along with the Tri-Board, which consists of the Finance Committee and the Selectman and the School Committee. We have an unusual degree of cooperation between the School Committee and the rest of the town in Ayer. And as a result, we have our unions cooperating better. We have our finances in much, much better shape than most other towns. So I wouldn't be running on a platform of change. I'd be running on a platform of making the most of what we already have, which is doing very well for us by comparison. We have to maintain our industrial base. I think something we have to be certain about is, and this is not directly a selectman issue, but it's a town meeting issue through the planning board, we have to be certain that we don't go rezoning a lot of industrial land to residential rather, because residential development is what costs the town a lot of red ink, whereas industrial development is what helps keep our tax rate moderate for everybody.
Thank you, Frank. And Mary?
Well, I don't have a plan to change anything. I'm a fiscally conservative, pretty common sense type of person. I'm somebody that doesn't live beyond my means. I think we have been very conservative in our budgeting in Ayer, and I would say that we need to keep on doing that. We will have some economy of services next year because, as I spoke before, when the regional district becomes self-sufficient, it will reduce a lot of charges to the town. So I think it would benefit us to sit down with all our department heads and get their feedback on economy of services.
Great, thank you. Our next question is just a few years ago, the BOS was known to be volatile, often unproductive, polarizing body, bogged down by uncompromising members. While we appreciate principled stands on issues, most people wish our representatives would work together to achieve progress and stability. Please comment on the value of compromise and how you would facilitate a more effective and productive BOS meeting.
I've been chair of the Board of Selectmen, and I've done my thing there, and so I can just say that my impression or my belief is the reason you have more than one person involved on these boards and committees is you want to have a variety of ideas expressed. You want to have everybody on the committee or board have the opportunity to hear everybody's idea. Then you make up your mind, and then you vote, and that settles it. Now, if somebody doesn't like that, then maybe you don't like it because I didn't mention the word compromise, but the compromise is absolutely unnecessary in the situation. A 3-2 vote on a 5-member board settles it just as completely as a 5-0 vote settles it. That issue is then settled, you go on to the next issue. The only thing that I felt was maybe non-productive when I was on the board is that there would be issues brought back again without any new information that would change somebody's position. If an issue has been settled, it's settled, you carry it out whether you agreed with the vote or not. And if some new information comes up that might change the correct decision for the town, then it's your responsibility to bring that new information back to see whether indeed it does persuade your colleagues to take a different position. But in terms of making a decision, the decision is made by the vote, and that's it.
Great, thank you. Mary?
What residents have told me is that they believe that the selectmen sometimes get bogged down with minutia, and it goes on and on and on, and important issues drag out to the last of the evening when everyone is tired and they don't get settled. I think perhaps there's too much on the agenda, and that it would be better served for perhaps the selectmen going back to every other week. They did do that for years, and maybe that's what they need to try. I believe that when our department heads come to a Board of Selectmen meeting, they should be on first. They should not be forced to sit there and wait half the night when they've worked all day. As far as compromise, I believe that people elect us for different opinions. They don't want 5 parrots sitting there, and that they would respect the fact that I do have opinions. I expect that if elected, I would disagree with some of my fellow board members. That doesn't mean that I would ever, I don't believe in nasty gutter politics. I don't believe in personally attacking anybody, mean-spiritedness. That's not who I am. And on every board I've served on, I have always tried to maintain the fact that I am a lady.
Great, thank you. That's actually all the time, in order to keep us on schedule, all the time we have for BOS questions. So Frank, we're going to let you do your your closing statement, sorry, and then Mary.
I'll use my closing statement to take another political stand. I hope that this candidates forum tonight, as it progresses, and you see all of the very well qualified candidates for all the offices, will put to rest the, seems to me, constantly reinvigorated or whatever claim that we need to have more appointed positions in town and fewer elected positions, because, oh my gosh, how are we going to know that we're going to have a good candidate for the office? We have good candidates for our offices. Once elected, they serve well. It's been our history since 1871. And this candidates forum, thanks again to the Communications Committee, I think should be an excellent illustration of that. I think that you'll find, as I've observed the candidates for this office and the others, you find very well qualified candidates. It's almost as though there's no distinction in terms of how well each candidate would serve. It's a matter of their style, their approach, and what their long-range vision would be for the town. And naturally, I'm hoping you'll accept my track record as having been as effective as your selectman before, as indication I can continue to be effective in the future. And the fact that I am looking ahead as somebody who was born in town back in 1943, I'm always looking ahead more than I am behind. I'm looking behind for lessons that we learned. I'm looking behind for foundation upon which to build, but I'm looking ahead to what this community can be for our posterity.
Well, I can't believe this is something Frank and I agree on. I do believe that we should continue with elected positions. I am very excited because we're going to have a lot of new faces next year. I think this is how a community goes forward, new faces, new ideas, and you continue to progress. I think I can continue to serve the town. I have in many capacities. I'd like to serve you now as a member of your Board of Selectmen. I've spoken about the different things I've been on and what I believe in. I'm a common sense, fiscally conservative person, and I would think I would serve you well, and I'm asking for your vote on April 26th.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Frank. Excellent.